everyone to our second edition of Pet Talk. So we are super excited to have you here. And of course, our guest of honor, Dr. Alisan Parnes, will be educating us. We're going to have some great testimonials after she does her presentation. And then we're also going to have some time for Q&A. So for the Q&A piece, if you could drop your questions in the chat, my trusty assistant, Susan Alden, will be monitoring, and then towards the end, we will feed those questions to Dr. Parnes. Just a reminder to the audience to keep yourself on mute, and also some basic rules of engagement. So all participants are muted. Dr. Parnes isn't here to diagnose your pets or cure, treat, or mitigate any disease. And then lastly, type any questions that you have into the chat box, and then we'll get to them at the end. So without any further ado, I feel like we need a drum roll here for Dr. Parnes. So Dr. Alisan Parnes is a veterinarian from Atlanta, Georgia. She graduated from University of Georgia, Go Dogs, and has been practicing for 18 years. She's also certified in veterinary acupuncture. She's been involved with LifeVantage and using nutrigenomics with her patients for the last 6 years. And she and her family just recently relocated to a 70-acre farm in North Georgia, where she spends her time with her 2 boys, her cats, dogs, and chickens. She currently does relief work with the local animal shelters doing spay and neuter for pets. So those that are just popping on, again, welcome to you. So I just was giving an introduction to Dr. Parnes, and we're just excited to have you here again. You're coming in muted, and then basic rules of engagement. Drop any questions into chat, and we will monitor those throughout. Dr. Parnes will give her brief, and she's not here to diagnose your pets, but she has got a presentation that will knock your socks off. Dr. Parnes, go.
Thank you, Hillary. Yes, so sorry for the delay, you guys. That was a wonderful introduction. Thank you all for being here tonight just to hear some incredible information I'm going to share with you about how we can truly help our pets optimize their health and their longevity using natural ways, and really giving them just the ability to live longer health spans, longer lifespans, and cope with some of the things that happen as they age. And so we're going to talk about the #1 cause of aging and disease in pets and the ways that we can combat that. And so I'm just going to share my screen with you guys and go through a little presentation as to what this is all about, and hope to give you some good nuggets tonight. So we're going to be talking about flipping the switch. If I can get my screen to work here. Hold on a minute. Let's see. Should be working. Thinking about it. There we go. Okay. Flipping the switch on our pets' health and longevity. So this is me in one of my practices. As Hillary mentioned, I'm a 2002 grad from University of Georgia. Spent the last 18 years in practice, and after about the first 10 years of general practice, I really started to become a little bit disenchanted with some of the limitations I was seeing in conventional medicine. You know, I was seeing patients coming in all the time dealing with chronic disease processes, painful conditions, arthritis. And I just felt like I got to a point where I really had run out of tools in my toolbox to help a lot of these patients. You know, we'd pretty much maxed them out on all the medications I could, and then we're having side effects, you know, and using more medications to deal with side effects. And, you know, people were really not ready to put their animals down and wanting to know what other options there were, and just to improve quality of life. And I really just felt helpless in a lot of cases to be able to do more. So that was really what led me into getting my acupuncture certification. That opened up a whole new realm for me as far as how I approach the health and wellness of my patients. And I learned a lot about herbs and traditional Chinese medicine. And, you know, I think one light bulb moment for me was when, you know, I was seeing so many cases of cancer coming into our clinics each week, probably diagnosing 2 or 3 cases a week. And the most common question people would ask me is, what could I have done to prevent this, or what caused this? And I really wanted to know that answer too. The focus of conventional medicine wasn't really getting to the root cause of these different conditions. And I just wanted to understand more about early intervention and things we could possibly do to assist these animals in their own healing. And so I really started to learn a lot about using herbs and other natural compounds outside of pharmaceuticals to do that. And really where it boils down to is figuring out, addressing the root cause. What is the root cause of these illnesses? That's where we need to get to, because conventional medicine really it has its strengths. Urgent care needs and surgery, those are all fantastic things. But when it comes to these chronic degenerative diseases, things start in the cell, and it starts very early, and it takes years and years for the body to manifest disease processes. So if we can intervene before the disease, that's ideal, right? So we want to get down to the root. So what is the root? Well, it is the cell. Health resides in our cells. If we don't have healthy cells, we don't have healthy tissues, we don't have healthy organs or a healthy body. And so on the left here, you see a healthy cell. And what happens over time is a process called oxidation occurs. And this happens when free radicals, which are just byproducts of breathing and eating and everything in our environment, they develop, and they're unstable molecules, and they start to attack our cells. And our body gets overwhelmed by these, and we lose the ability to fight them off effectively. And it leads to something called oxidative stress. And this causes cellular damage and cell death. And so what we want to do is try to stop that process, or at least slow it down. So this oxidative stress is present in all of our cells. And as we, you can kind of think of it like the browning of an apple. Anytime you expose something to oxygen, like an apple, it turns brown. Same with rusting of metal. Well, that's what's happening in our cells every day. And the average person produces, they've estimated 300 sextillion free radicals every day. And that's a huge number. And it's probably an even higher number in our pets because of all the different things they're exposed to, which is what, I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But, these free radicals, again, come from normal bodily processes, but it also comes from many things in our environment, different toxins, pollutants, chemicals, EMFs, radiation. So all of those things are what contribute to that huge astronomical number. So why is oxidative stress a big deal? Well, this is called the oxidative stress wheel. It's basically showing you that oxidative stress affects every single system in the body, and over 200 common diseases are linked to oxidative stress. So pretty much everything that you could think of in your pet, anything with inflammation, anything with autoimmune diseases, fibrosis, cancer, heart disease. And many of our pets get the same diseases that humans do. They suffer from very similar things, allergies, arthritis, dermatitis, macular degeneration, and even, doggy dementia. So they are just as subject to all of these things as humans are. And depending on the pet or the individual, it's going to manifest in different ways. So we just need to do all that we can to combat it. So let's talk about it from a veterinary perspective. So we know it affects all tissues. It affects all species, all mammals. So that includes dogs, cats, horses, humans. And our companion animals age much faster than we do. And they're exposed to a lot more toxins than we are. For example, they're getting insecticides put on them or in them every month. They're getting, heartworm medications, flea medications, dewormers, just going outside, rolling around in the grass. Even walking, on their feet, they're absorbing chemicals through the soil, through contact, and they're ingesting things off the ground. So obviously humans aren't doing all those things. So you can imagine that their bodies are even more overwhelmed, even than we are with what their life is like. Even just the water they drink, tap water has been known to contain chemicals and heavy metals. And then if you look at the diets, most of our pets are eating highly processed foods that have carcinogens. They're loaded with preservatives and GMOs and food coloring. So you know, if we don't do something to help these guys combat some of this oxidative stress, if it's left unchecked, it's going to have a dramatic impact on their health. So let's talk about how we can assist our pets to handle this toxic load on their bodies. And I want to introduce you to something called nutrigenomics. And nutrigenomics is literally just using nutrition and natural compounds to affect gene expression. And this is really, you know, a new buzzword that you're hearing more and more about in health and wellness. But really, this technology goes back thousands of years in Ayurvedic and Eastern medicine. I'm sure you've heard the famous quote by Hippocrates, "Let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food." And it's been well known that herbs can be used as medicine throughout the ages, but what's really cool is that now we're starting to understand the science of this. So this really, nutrigenomics is the science of how nutrition is affecting our gene expression. So now I want to talk to you about something called NRF2 activation, NRF2 activation, and this is really cutting edge technology. NRF2 is a protein messenger that resides in every single cell in our bodies. It was discovered back in the late 90s, and since then over 15,000 studies have been published on PubMed. And so this is definitely a very hot area of science and research, but NRF2 is known as a master regulator of detoxification and antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, and other cytoprotective mechanisms. And when NRF2 is activated, it's like a light switch, literally flipping the production on of our body's own survival genes. And what that does is it kicks out all of these powerful antioxidant enzymes that are going to now be able to handle this oxidative stress and reduce it. So this is just for kind of the science nerds out there, or the medical professionals. This is a little schematic, but this is a cell, and the NRF2 is the little red round thing inside of the cytoplasm. It's bound by KEAP1, and when NRF2 activation occurs, that NRF2 protein is then released from the KEAP1. It moves inside of the nucleus and binds to the DNA, and it turns on the body's own survival genes. So you have these anti-inflammatory enzymes, antioxidant enzymes, anti-fiber carcinogenic proteins released. So that is essentially the physiology behind it. So our enzymes, these antioxidant enzymes that are released, are very powerful, and they're much more powerful than any antioxidant that we can consume in food. So on the left-hand side, you see all of these foods like the oranges and blueberries and vitamin Z's supplements, right? So these are our traditional antioxidants. And what we know about these is that they only work on a 1-to-1 ratio. So if you take a vitamin C, for example, you're only knocking out one free radical at a time. And as I mentioned, our bodies produce 300 sextillion free radicals a day. So knocking out one at a time is not going to do anything to effectively lower oxidative stress. So on the right-hand side, we see something called a little blue bottle here called Protandim. But what this is our NRF2 activator. It's the only all-natural NRF2 activator that has been proven to lower oxidative stress. And so what it does is, again, it flips the switch on in our body. So now that it's kicking out these antioxidant enzymes, and one of our enzymes is able to neutralize 1 million free radicals every second. So it's 1 versus 1 million. That's how much more powerful it is. So you definitely want to be working smarter by activating your own body. And that is what Protandim does. And it's been proven scientifically to do that. So we'll get a little bit more into what is actually in that. But Protandim was developed back in the early 2000s by a world-renowned biochemist who is known as the father of free radical biology, Dr. Joe McCord. And he essentially took 5 well-known, well-studied herbs and combined them into this formulation, and was able to develop kind of the magic formula. And when it was tested on humans, actually first, before dogs, the study that was done, the very first one on Protandim, showed it reduced oxidative stress by 40% in 30 days in every single human that took it. And so it got a lot of attention at that point from different scientists around the world and researchers who wanted to start studying Protandim, because they all knew how big oxidative stress was, and how, if something can reduce it to that degree, they wanted to study it. So what's crazy is, like, how do we get back now to talking about how it applies to our pets, is that people started taking Protandim, having great results. Well, then they started giving it to their dogs. And, you know, as I mentioned, oxidative stress is the same in dogs and people, right? Probably worse in dogs. So the company actually developed a dog version of the human version. So this is probably the only time in history you'll ever see a dog supplement that was tested in people first. It's kind of crazy. But they were able to formulate the dog version where it's chewable and flavored. They added in some extra joint support, as well as omega-3 fatty acids and type 2 collagen. And you know, again, works the exact same as the human version. It's got the same Nerf2 ingredients. And then what's also great is they did a dog study with Protandim, and this was done at a veterinary hospital in Colorado where they had 80 dogs, and they were healthy dogs, but a lot of them had some arthritis. And so what they did is a double-blind placebo-controlled study. So that means that the investigators didn't know which group of dogs was taking Protandim, and neither did the owners. And they were looking at overall clinical response, and they were also looking at hematological changes in the blood work reflecting oxidative stress. And so halfway through the study, before it was even unblinded, the veterinary staff and the owners knew exactly which group of dogs was getting Protandim, because they were already seeing such a difference in these animals with their energy level, with their alertness, you know, their mobility scores, all of that. And so they could tell even before the study revealed which group of dogs was taking Protandim. But you can see the results at the bottom, that the group that took it had better overall mobility scores. And then on the right, you can see the blood work changes. So the catalase is one of those antioxidant enzymes that the group taking Protandim increased by 36%. And the group taking the placebo actually had a decline by 11%. So there was a 47% difference there, showing that this product is actually working to do what it says it does, turning on those survival genes. So these are the activating ingredients that activate the Nerf2 pathway. These are 5 herbs: milk thistle, bacopa, ashwagandha, green tea, and turmeric. And these 5 herbs, again, well studied in Eastern medicine, but the magic with them is the way that they're combined in this product. It is a very specific ratio, almost like a recipe, really. You need a certain amount of each herb to get the Nerf2 activation to happen. And if you deviate from that ratio, you do not get the same effect. And they were able to prove that in a study right here, showing that you know, they were looking at the Nerf2 activation and looking at a control versus all the herbs individually, and you see there's really no difference between the control and the herbs by themselves. But when you combine it with Protandim, you get an 18-fold increase. And so that just shows the synergy, and you know, small amounts of each thing have a magnitude, you know, effect. And so they were able to actually get patents on this product because they were, you know, able to show that this formula only in this ratio worked. And so that's pretty unusual too, to be able to patent a plant. And so again, it's not something you see, but it's really good to know the science behind this and why. A lot of studies, again, have been done on Protandim. We have 26 peer-reviewed studies right now on PubMed. If you go to pubmed.gov, type in Protandim, you can find those there. That was really a big deal to me as a doctor, to, you know, see the American Heart Association and, you know, Harvard and Ohio State studying this branded natural product. There's just something that you don't normally see, you know, in practice. And I had clients always coming and dumping things on my counter, asking me if this supplement was good for their dog. And, you know, most of them have really no science behind them. And so to be able to see, you know, universities putting their own money into funding research on this was just huge to me. This came out of Washington State University, talking about Nerf2 activation. And it says it's the most extraordinary preventative breakthrough in the history of medicine. So really good stuff on that. So how can it help our fur babies? Well, I'm constantly getting asked that question. You know, my dog has X, Y, and Z condition. How could Protandim or Protandim help them? And my answer is typically always the same. You know, if we go back to the oxidative stress wheel, then you can see, you know, all these different systems that are affected. And if you go and look on PubMed and type that condition that your dog has in PubMed, plus oxidative stress, you're going to see a huge link there. And so I just tell them, listen, we know that pretty much every disease that you can think of is related to oxidative stress. And no matter what your pet has going on, reducing oxidative stress is going to help in that situation. So, you know, we can't really make medical claims because this is not a drug. So I can't say, you know, we can't say Protandim is going to treat, cure, or mitigate any disease. But again, if you make that connection with oxidative stress and just look at PubMed, you will see, okay, if there's a link, then obviously reducing the oxidative stress is going to help, right? So there's really, too, no patient that I wouldn't recommend it for, even as just a maintenance type preventative, because the best time to keep your pet healthy is when they're already healthy. So we know oxidative stress starts to begin at a very early age, and it's cumulative over time. And so starting something like this early in life will not only reduce it, but it will also just help the body rid itself of so many toxins that are coming in on a daily basis. So I recommend this even for younger dogs, you know, before there's a problem. I just think that, again, we're going to be able to see, you know, increased longevity the earlier we start with this. Other great benefits: better skin and hair coat, increased energy and endurance, healthier immune system, better sleep, joint health, mobility. The list goes on. Really, pretty much everything that you can think of as pets get older, you know, you can see improvements in many of these things. Skip that one. This I'll just bring your attention to really quick. Just speaking on longevity, one of the studies on Protandim was done by the government, the National Institute on Aging, and they did a 12-year study on mice looking at different natural compounds to see if they could affect lifespan. And they looked at fish oil, curcumin, green tea, resveratrol, and they looked at Protandim. And what they found was that Protandim was the only one that actually extended lifespan out of all of those other things they studied by 7%. So we can actually say now we have the first animal product that's been shown to extend life. And that's amazing to me, because people want their pets to live longer, you know, and happier lives. This article came from the American Holistic Veterinary Journal, just talking about oxidative stress and a review of the nerve-2 pathway. So again, it's just starting to get more well-known in the mainstream veterinary world. So if you haven't heard of it, you will probably start hearing it. Just quickly on dosing, this is the bottle, and it's dose based on weight. So the smaller and medium dogs, I recommend this. You Protandim for them, but once you start getting into the large and giant breeds, you know, 70 pounds and over, sometimes it's more cost effective to just put them on the human version. So I know horses are generally taking the human version. So again, because of the weight, I kind of they interchange them back and forth. Or if it's somebody that has, you know, a lot of dogs in their household and they don't want to be buying, you know, tons of bottles of Protandim, we'll just put them on Protandim and they can, you know, half the tablet. This is the conversion. 4 Protandim equals 1 Protandim. So basically, you know, 1 Protandim is a quarter of a Protandim, you know, etc. So we just do the little conversion chart for them. And cats can take this as well, which is amazing. You know, cats, there aren't a lot of drugs that cats will tolerate, especially when it comes to pain and aging conditions. And so Protandim is huge benefits for kitties, and we'll hear a little testimonial tonight. It's very, very safe. My dog ate my entire bottle one time and did not even get diarrhea. I was shocked, but there's no known drug interactions. You know, as far as side effects, really the only thing I've ever seen, I've had a few patients that have had loose stool or GI upset. It's been very rare, but, you know, dogs can be sensitive to even getting, you know, a table scrap of something that's not their food. So just depending on your dog, if they're super sensitive, you might want to start at a lower dose, like half the dose, and then work up. But in general, it is very well tolerated. And lastly, I just want to bring your attention to the NASC symbol. This is just something I want you to know about, because it's very important when you're looking at quality. And I know we're all concerned about, especially when, you know, this is not an FDA, you know, drug. So we want to make sure that this has in it, you know, that it's pure, that it's quality, that we know the label is telling the truth, unlike some of these other supplements out there. And so this symbol really guarantees quality. It stands for the National Animal Supplement Council, similar to the NSF symbol on human products. And this is really important because the vast majority of pet supplements on the market have no third-party seal of approval. And so, you know, it's important to look for this symbol on anything that you're purchasing for your pet. And if you see it, then you're going to know it's from a quality manufacturer. And this third-party organization has very rigorous guidelines for quality control, for labeling, for reporting of any adverse events. And they also do random product testing and random facility audits where they go in and check for good manufacturing practices. So I'm just so thankful that the company took the extra step to get this labeling so that we know it's a quality and safe product. And with that, I will conclude my presentation. I really hope that you guys got some valuable information. I haven't been able to look at questions yet, but I will look in the chat box. But whoever invited you to this webinar tonight, just get back with them and they can give you a little more information on you know, product details if it's something that you maybe want to try for your animal. But I have a lot of veterinarians that I work with that have implemented this into their practice, and just the testimonials are just so many, and we're going to have a few people share. But I appreciate you guys taking the time tonight. So I'll turn it back over to you guys, Hillary and Susan.
All right, well, we are here to take it away. Aloha again. Thanks again to Dr. Parnes for that great brief. I love it because it's so accessible and affordable and informative. I almost said affordable, but it's also affordable. So relative to what you would spend on your pet care, it's definitely affordable, but it was so great, accessible and informative, and apparently affordable. So I wanted to just take a moment. Our first up is going to be Jenny Field. So if she can go ahead and unmute, but I just wanted to introduce you to my sidekicks here. So we've got Peely, she's going to be helping answer and moderate questions in a little while, and Susan Alden, who is a certified yoga therapist and functional medicine, and she is also passionate about her furry friends, and that's why we're all here. So if Jenny is ready, she's going to be here, and she's going to be translating for Lily, her beautiful horse. Take it away, Jenny.
All right, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you perfectly. Thanks.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you so much. Well, yes, again, my name is Jenny Field, and I live in Nevada, Northern Nevada. And I just wanted to share a little bit of our story with one of my daughter's barrel horses that we put on Pro Tandem. And a couple years ago, my daughter's barrel horse that really had only just turned 4 years old had a deep flexor tendon strain in her back hind foot. And long story short, led into where that deep flexor tendon had so much stress on it that it actually fractured her navicular bone in her foot. And we had gone to a couple different vets. We got a couple different opinions. We had one vet tell us that the horse was pretty much useless, that we would never, ever be able to compete on her again. And we didn't settle for that diagnosis. So we went and took her to another vet and got a much better diagnosis with that. And he said, with rest and recovery, your horse will heal. With the proper shoeing, your daughter will be able to compete again on her. And so diligently we went through the rehab program, and that took us a whole year to rehab this horse. And we were getting ready to send her back into some training to be able to get her, up and going again. And so I started to look for natural ways to support this horse on a cellular level, and just came across Pro Tandem and dove into the science of it. And just, immediately jumped on board. And so this has been about a year and a half ago. We put our mare on Protandim, and in the last year and a half, my daughter has been able to get back into high school rodeo with her mare. The horse is doing amazing. She's barrel racing again, increasing her times. And it's just something that has been able to support, Lily, the horse, on a cellular level. It is supporting her joints, her tendons, to make them stronger, and has just completely transformed, our horse. I don't think that she would be where she's at right now if we hadn't found Protandim and started putting her on it. So that's just kind of a real quick story. I know we've got some other speakers on there, so I don't want to take up too much time, but, we have seen tremendous results with the product. We now have put all our other horses on it for some different, reasons as well. We've got one horse with some arthritis, another horse with some feet issues as well. And it's just something that you're able to use that is going to be safe and support just the inside the body of the animal. So that's a little bit of our story with Lily.
Well, thank you so much, Jenny. We are really happy to have you on our show today. And thank you for sharing all of these great success stories. So next up, we have, coming all the way from the Netherlands, Poppy and her mom, Polly Grace.
Yes.
So welcome.
Yes.
Good to see you.
Well, she finally made it.
Hey.
So thank you very much. Yeah. Just a little bit about myself. My name is Polly Grace, and this is Poppy, and she's 18 years. I live in Amsterdam, the Netherlands, and actually I started with the product myself. So I've never thought about putting my cat on the Protandim until like in November. She really got some problems, and she got to fall over all the time and had really seizures. I never had seen that before with her, and she would have like constipation. She couldn't poop. It was terrible. And my job, I'm working in the airline, so I'm often away, or somebody else is taking care of my cat. So for me, I was like, no, I need to go to the vet. So I went to the vet, and they couldn't figure out what it was. They could figure out that the poop was still was too tight, and it couldn't come out. So maybe that was it. That was solved. She still had like a real issue with the seizures, and to make a very long story short, at New Year's, it was so awful. We had MRI for her. We checked her out. We checked what was wrong. They could not find anything, and they were even surprised that she was an 18-year-old cat. So on that day, I just freaked out because she kept falling over. She kept falling, like every 5 minutes she would seizure, and I called my vet, and they are amazing, but at that time I could not hear, because what they said is like, well, you have to think about, she's an old cat. Maybe you should put her down. I freaked out. I said, no, my cat is not sick. There's something wrong. So again, I went there. They gave me some products against epileptic seizures, like Femerol. But I felt she got worse on them. But I did. I sort of like complied what my vet said, but she got really worse on it. At one point, I had to go and travel, and I was traveling for a month. And my friend who took care of my cat sort of like chilled down on the product, the medical product. So, and she got a little bit better. I tried to give Protendum to Poppy, and we don't have Petendum, but I tried to give her, and she doesn't like the herbs. So I did it with Easy Pill, so she took it. She got it in her system, and she got a little bit better. But she is a diva. She just sniffs out and doesn't eat whatever I put it in. So, but at one point I thought, no, I need to give her the product. So I just, put it in her mouth, and she's taking it if I put it all the way in the bag. This cat is not on any medical products anymore. She's only on Protendum. She is walking the streets again. She is meowing my ears off because she wants food. She is, she's just a diva. She just jumps up. Yesterday my door was open and my neighbor's door was open. She went up into his apartment. All of a sudden we see her looking from the floor down, like, oh, this is my house. Oh, what's happening? So this cat, almost that I thought I had to put her down to this. And I just say, I'm not going to give her any products anymore, but Protendum, because I just want to let her live her life very normally. And if she has to die, she has to die. But she is not dying yet. For me, she's becoming 25. That's my goal. My cat is turning 25. So no, for me, Protendum really saved my cat's life. And that's all I will have to say, because I am so grateful. I know the product did something for me, but I can see it in my cat, and they don't have placebo effect. So it's either it works or it doesn't work, and it works. So that is my really my story with my little kitty cat.
Yeah, that's an excellent point that I'd never even thought about, that with animals you don't have the placebo effect, because they're not taking it thinking that, they've heard some great story. I mean, I know they're watching it with us, but it may not be their language. So so how old again is Poppy?
Poppy is 18. She's 18.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, we got 7 years then. And then also, I need to set up a private Zoom so you can show me how you force it down the cat's throat, because that's my personal challenge right now. I have the same kind of cat attitude, some catitude going on with my couple cats. So we'll talk later.
We'll talk later.
Yes. So next we have Michelle Bright, who we were supposed to have on our first session. So we are so pleased that she was patient with us and is back for round 2. And she is here with her beautiful dog, Dixie. So Michelle, I will let you take away the conversation. Thank you. And thanks for coming back.
Hi, and thank you everyone for having me. Can y'all hear me? Yay. I've known Dixie now for about 2.5 years, and when I was first introduced to her, I was told she was about 9 or 10. And I watched the dog, I looked at her teeth, and I said, I feel like Dixie's probably more around 14 years old. She moved very slowly, hard for her to get up on the bed, had made her some steps and so forth to help her with that. She went crazy when she first met my little dog, Bella, and they just played, really enjoying each other. And then all of a sudden, she zoned out and slept all the time. She basically would crawl up in her bed and never moved until it was time to eat. I went to see Dixie one evening because I was called to come check her out, and Dixie was literally on her deathbed. I picked her up and said, I am taking her to the emergency vet. And they basically said to me, she has an autoimmune disease, and the best bet for her right now would be to put her down. And I went crazy. I'm like, no, we're going to take care of Dixie. We're going to work with her through this. I just need for you to write the prescription for me, and I will see that she gets it. I got her, took her home, and I got the medicine for her, went to a 24-hour pharmacy, got the medicine for her, and basically stayed up with Dixie for like 72 hours. That first night, the same night I took her to the emergency room, a friend of mine met Sunshine, who has helped us get this Protandim. And at first, we started with the adult formula, and we split it, gave her half in the morning and half in the evening. And this dog, who literally for 2 years had not said a word, she had not barked, she had not howled, she had not whined, nothing for 2 years, just slept. Was up in the front yard where I would typically be begging her, "Come on, Dixie, let's go. Come on, Dixie, let's go." Trying to get her to go to the restroom and then come back inside for a treat. She was beating me back to the house after she did her business. She was getting up on the bed by herself. This dog had so much energy. She was all over the town. And that was after probably 3 days of Protandim. After we finished the week's worth of Protandim that we had, I put her on the dog's Protandim, and Dixie cannot be controlled. I had racked my brain trying to figure out what I could do for her arthritis, changed her food, put her on a vitamin for that. She no longer takes the vitamin for the arthritis, and she's great. Like I said, she is still all over the town. She's in the neighbors' yards, the neighbors calling up saying, "Hey, Dixie's over here," and so we're having to go get her and bring her back. This dog that was near death is probably acting like she's 6 or 7 years old now. And I'm so proud to see that and to hear it, that a few weeks ago, for the first time, I listened to Dixie sing at the full moon for about 10 minutes. And it was the most beautiful sound I have heard in a long, long time. Very proud of Protandim, so much so that I've started taking it myself. Now, how many people can say that they've started something because their dog did better? So I love the stuff and recommend it to everyone. Fixing to start my 19-year-old horse on Protandim. I'm just waiting on the adult formula for him to come in.
Wow, what a great, great story. That was definitely worth waiting for. So in about a month, what's your horse's name?
Max.
So in about a month or two, we want to hear what's happening with Max, because I know that's going to be a great story as well.
Yes, because he's a sleeper. He has become an expert at eating while he sleeps. So, and he's a barrel horse as well. So I'm hoping to be able to do a lot with him after putting him on the Protandim.
Well, great. No, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yes, we'll have you back soon. Thank you. So last but not least, bringing us home this afternoon, we've got Jennifer Garland with her dog, Moose. Are you ready to go, Jennifer?
Yes, ma'am, I am. Hi. Hi, everybody. Thank y'all for having me so much. I love all these stories that has just floored me. We actually have our horse, Oscar. He's a 27 Hanoverian. He's on this also, but I'm going to and he has shown amazing results in his arthritis. He bucks and runs around the pasture now, but I'm mainly here tonight to talk about my dog. I'm going to try not to tear up because it's very fresh, but we started, Moose is a 8.5-year-old German short hair pointer. He last October started having these neurological episodes. They're not really seizures, but they were just very neuro in nature. He would kind of space out a little bit, very rigid, some posturing, some excessive panting, just not himself. And then like a light switch, he would go back to being himself. So the vet said that, that's a kind of a telltale neuro sign. So we started him on Protandim 4 months ago. I'm sorry, I think it's been, 4 months ago. He had, up until that point, he had had about 4 of these episodes. They were getting closer together. We started him on Protandim, and he has not ever had an episode again. Last week, he was out on the farm with us, and he was completely fine. And then all of a sudden, he started painting a lot, excessive drooling. My husband and our nurse, we grabbed our stethoscope, we gave him a once over. His heart rate was so fast, we couldn't even count it. So we jumped in the car and took him. Actually, right before we jumped in the car, I popped another Protandim into him, and we headed to UGA. We couldn't go in the building with him. It was after hours, emergency care, all this mess with the virus. So we couldn't go in with him, but I could see this monitor up on the wall. I'm like standing on a park bench outside, like trying to see, and I'm sure I looked crazy. And I could see this monitor blinking red with his heart rate. And they called me and said that he was in a lethal cardiac rhythm called VTAC, and his heart rate was 220 beats per minute. And we talked all about, the fact that they didn't think he was going to make it through the night, stay by the phone. Did we want to code him? All of this just crazy, scary stuff. I had to leave him there. He does not like being away from us. So it was really pulling at my heart. I stayed up all night long. I was afraid I was going to miss a call because the only time they would let me in the building is if something happened. So I was right by the phone to try to get there if he needed me. The next morning, the vet called. He was fine. He had come out of his VTAC. He was having some slight arrhythmias, but nothing lethal. They started him on a beta blocker, a heart medication to help with his arrhythmia, and said, come get him. We can't explain this. They did CAT scan. They did, you name it. Everything came back completely normal. His blood work for an 8-year-old dog was completely normal. They said, come get him. So then they called me back very quickly afterward and said, we think he's had maybe a reaction to the sedation medication we gave him. He needs a couple more hours. Then they called me right back and said, no, he's had a major neurological event. I'm not sure if it's a stroke or if we've unmasked a brain lesion or a brain tumor, but he is unresponsive, only responding to noxious stimuli, so only responding to pain. He had failed all his cranial nerves. He wasn't responding to anything but painful stimulation for hours. Again, they said he's not going to make it through the night, stay by the phone. We have no idea what's going on. The only way to diagnose a brain tumor was an MRI, which required general anesthesia, and they did not want to put him under any kind of sedation at that point. So, and neither did we. So same thing. So this time throughout the night, I just kept thinking, like, I wish if he gets responsive enough to be able to take a by-mouth medication, I was hoping that they would let me bring him his Protandim and start him back on that. So I thought they would need some convincing for me to tell them my dog had to be on the supplement in his, near end of life. And so I stayed up doing a bunch of research, and the more I found, the words that I kept reading were, and this was on PubMed, was neuroprotective. Protandim is neuroprotective. NRF2 activation is neuroprotective. That's the word that I kept reading about all the neuro stuff I was looking into. The next morning, they called me at 6 a.m. and said that he was completely back to normal. He had 0 neurological deficits. He wasn't sluggish. All of his cranial nerves were intact. He was up, standing there, like waiting to go outside and go to the bathroom. He wasn't tipping over on his side. He was walking straight. He was, completely normal. The vets were like, I have no idea what has happened. They said if it was a stroke, there's no way he would have come out of it like that with 0 deficits. If it was a tumor, there's no way that it would have gone away like that. We don't know what caused this. We don't know how he's come out of it, but he's fine. Come get him. And I talked to them about Protandim. They were floored by some of the things I was telling them. They wanted all the articles. They're looking into it. They were so excited. So Moose, he's right here. I don't know if, Moosey, you want to have a cameo? We've been out on the farm, so he's laying down now, but he is completely fine, no problems at all, running, chasing the stick like a puppy. So, nobody knows what happened. Nobody knows really why it started or how he got better. But the only thing that I can attribute this to is how activated he is and how protected he is. And I am floored by this product. And I am so thankful to have my dog still with me. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so, so much. I mean, the more I hear about this stuff, the more I am passionate about sharing. So when she was talking, though, I really came up with a dumb joke. So I figure we got to lighten the mood a little bit. So if you give a dog a CAT scan, what do you give a cat, Dr. Parnes? You can answer that. That'll be your first question. So we have now segued into question time. I know that Pili has left Susan in charge to field the questions. I don't know if she's going to do as good a job as Pili did, but we'll do our best. And you know what? She did just activate with some Axio, so maybe she'll pull through. So Dr. Parnes, we are going to turn the floor back over to you as Susan will feed you some questions. But again, Dr. Parnes is not diagnosing your pets. We've got some great questions here, though, some general stuff.
Yeah, so one of the first, the cat question came up first, and thank you, Polly Grace, for sharing your cat story. If you have a cat who is already having some digestive issues, how would you recommend, I know you mentioned half dose, but even like for the finicky cat, do you have some recommendations, Dr. Parnes, on dosing for cats and just getting them, getting over the catitude in terms of taking Pet Tandem?
Yes, great question. Cats can be very difficult to medicate. And I typically put cats on the human version. And the reason is the tablet for the Pet Tandem is a little bit big, and the cat dose would be a half of that tablet. So it's really too big to kind of shove down their throat. And if you use the human version, then you can do 1/8 of a tablet, which is a really tiny, small piece of the pill. And some cats will take that in a pill pocket, so you can put it in a pill pocket and see if they'll eat it that way. If not, you can actually crush it and put it into a little tiny bit of canned food and see if they'll eat it that way. I've had some people coat it in like a little bit of coconut oil, and it'll slide down easy that way if you have to manually get it. But, it's kind of just up to the cat and how, and what they love. If you can find a pill pocket, that's the easiest, but you just have to play around with it. But I think it's easier with the Pro Tandem than the Pet Tandem for cats.
Thank you. Good answer. Okay, so, and what about with you, if your pets are taking another supplement like glucosamine, or if they happen to be taking some kind of supplement that includes turmeric as one of the ingredients, can you talk a little bit about that? And
Sure. Yeah, so as far as other supplements go, I mean, if you're giving glucosamine and chondroitin already, you can still keep giving that. The amount in the Pet Tandem is not a huge amount, so there's nothing wrong with continuing to give that extra if you want to keep them on that. The only real interaction issue that you would have is if you're giving another herbal supplement that contains any of the same herbs that's in Pet Tandem or Pro Tandem, because remember when I talked about that synergistic formula with Pro Tandem and that ratio of the herbs, that is key. So if you're adding extra turmeric in another product at the same time, you're going to throw that ratio off. So you just need to separate it by at least 2 hours, or give it, like if you're giving Pet Tandem in the morning, just give the other thing at night, and that should be fine. But honestly, I would say most people, if you're giving herbal supplements, I would say most people can usually stop a lot of those things. Extra vitamins and supplements, once they're on Pet Tandem and Pro Tandem, they really many times are not needed. Some of these other things.
yeah, I know in the chat, one of the questions that came up, and I appreciate you typing the answer in, but for anybody who wasn't reading it, you mentioned being able to wean your pets off of pain medications and that you've had success with that.
Yeah, I definitely have been able to get quite a number of patients off of, so non-steroidals, anti-inflammatories are common in dogs for arthritis, and they can be very hard on the kidneys. And so the goal for me always is to try to get them to the minimum dosing of those things as possible, and ideally off of them. And so using acupuncture and protanum, I've been able to get a lot of patients off of those medications. And, we just start doing a gradual wean, and just see, find the lowest dose that makes them comfortable. And if we can keep going lower and get them off of it, that's what I do. I just kind of do that slowly. And I usually wait at least, I would say at least 3 to 4 weeks after they've been on protanum, because it does take some time to build up in the body. So I wouldn't start trying to cut out medications right away. I would give the protanum time to build up, 4 to 6 weeks, and then to start reevaluating if the pet's doing great. All right, well, let's see if we can start backing down. So that's sort of how I approach that.
Awesome, thanks. And I don't know if Jenny is still on, but there was a question about how many protanum a day was your horse taking, and if there were any pictures. And again, I know Jenny had to leave for another meeting, so I don't know if she's still here. But if you want to jump in and answer that, and if not, maybe Dr. Parnes can share a little bit.
She's probably not on. I think she did have something she had to be at. But I know that in general, the dosing for horses is 2 tablets a day is what the majority of people do. So I heard one equine vet talk about, 1 tablet per 400 pounds. But then I know some people who only give their horse 1 a day as a maintenance. So I think it's also depending on what the horse is going through. Like, I would go on the higher dose if they are dealing with something really severe. And then maybe if they're just a healthy horse, you could get away with doing just 1 tablet.
Great. I know we're getting close to time, but I think one of the things I wanted to emphasize was PubMed. The studies that you mentioned can be found on PubMed. Is that correct?
Yes, exactly. All the protanum studies are on PubMed. Some of the dog study and the veterinary stuff, those are not going to be listed on PubMed, but if anybody wants those, we can provide those for you.
Oh, do you want?
No, go ahead.
Yeah, we just got a sheep question. So do you recommend human version for sheep, and then or the pet version for sheep?
I would go with the human version. Yeah. Yeah, I've had people giving it to their chickens. I mean, they're plants. It's like, why not? If there's an issue, I would do it. But yeah, for a sheep, I would say start with 1 tablet and see what happens.
Awesome, thank you. And I know whoever invited you to this call, they can make sure you get access to the studies, and we even can provide the copy of these slides for this. So please get back to the person that invited you to this call. And if your question didn't get answered, or you need some more information, or even some help in how to navigate PubMed.gov, it's super easy. But if you're not familiar with it, let us know, and we're happy to help you with that. And Hillary, you want to close this out?
Yeah, I just am so grateful for this time. I know a lot of you took an hour out of your day to be present with us. So we're very grateful that you tuned in. And again, get back with the person that invited you to this call, and they're happy to share more information to point you in the right direction, because we always want people to do their own research. This is about building belief in knowing that what you take for yourself and what you give to your pets is something that's wholesome and something that will basically enhance their health and their needs. So we are so grateful to everyone that came on board, that shared their stories, that tuned in. Dr. Parnes, always thank you again for being so generous with your time and your expertise. And Susan, I think you did okay. I mean, I'm going to hopefully work with Billy next time, but
the dogs bailed on me. They didn't hold out for an hour, but we appreciate you holding out for a whole hour, and especially everyone who shared those stories. Super powerful, very moving.
Yes.
Aloha, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day.